We can start. So, hello everyone. Thank you for making it to this highly awaited and hopefully, insights loaded webinar on how to build large iconic brands globally from India. But before we jump into the session, quick word about D2C Global and the supporting industry partners. D2C Global is a community effort started by founders, practitioners who have been selling internationally. A lot of brands, aspire to go international, but don't know how to do it successfully. So D2C Global's goal is that, every emerging brand should know how to crack international markets at the back of their hands. So if you are a brand who have cracked international market, you should certainly share your learnings with the brands around you. You can join the D2C Global WhatsApp community and follow D2C Global on LinkedIn. You would see the LinkedIn links in the chat window now. You can start following the community for more updates from the sector, as well as connect with fellow entrepreneurs who have similar interest in basically the global markets, right? Now, quick intro on the supporting partners. Amazon Propel is an accelerator designed to help early stage startups becoming international brands through mentorship sessions, networking connect, and access to global markets. Produce is a global distribution accelerator that helps select brands and manufacturers build online and offline distribution globally. We also have Pota and G Express, who are freight forwarding companies that help customers with cross-border shipping both via air and sea. They also help with warehousing and other related logistic services. We have Stelcor, P&A, and Lucria. Basically, they help customers with global tax solutions, overseas entity setup, and product compliance, intellectual property rights, among other services. Lastly, we also have Ping Pong, who's a cross-border payment solution. They offer cross-border payment solution to manage multiple virtual accounts in various currencies and withdraw funds to an Indian bank account, to payment requests to foreign buyers, pay taxes, and receive digital FIRCs. So if you are looking for any of these services, you can reach out to these partners. Now, without wasting any more time and getting into the session that everyone is waiting for, allow me to introduce you to today's speaker, Deepak Mehrotra, who is the founder and CEO of California Design Den. Many of you must be knowing, but for those who are not aware, CDD has achieved, remarkable scale, something a lot of people in the Indian ecosystem are proud of. From starting in 2017 as a brand to now, I think, doing close to 100 million in revenues. They sell in multiple countries and do both online and offline. And I also think CDD is the largest brand selling from India to the world on the Amazon platform. So with that, perspective, like you can say, they're really one of the brands that, most of us look up to. It was started by Deepak's company, NMK Textiles, which began its journey in 2006 by manufacturing and exporting high-end bed linens to large department store in the US and Canada. So Deepak has been kind of a torchbearer in this Make in India movement, and in that cracking the most complex business challenge, right? Which is building a global consumer brand that global consumers love, right? So thank you, Deepak, for being here, taking out your valuable time and sharing your learnings with other aspiring brands and entrepreneurs. We really appreciate your presence here.
Thank you, Rakesh, and good to be here.
Yeah, now passing the mic to Deepak. Deepak, it will be great if you can tell us a bit about CDD today and its journey of getting here. Also, how did you think of starting CDD? What is CDC scales presence today? If you can, kind of help us understand a bit about that.
Sure. So I'll kind of repeat some of the things that you have said. I started my journey in home textiles somewhere in early 2000s, where we set up a company to do private label manufacturing for retailers in US and Canada for bed linens, bed sheets, right? So India had a specialization in making good quality cotton bed sheets, and so we started to do that. So we formed NMK Textile Mills in India with my brother and my family, and we started to produce private label stuff. So by that, what in India we call exporter, right? Which is you work with retailers and brands overseas who will give you their orders and their brand label, and you will make it as per their specs or some of the samples you have shown them and they have liked, and you will manufacture them and you will export. So that was going well till about, I would say, 2015, 2016. We saw that a lot of our business was stagnant. By stagnant, I meant the industry, like any industry, it was consolidating. The big were getting bigger on both sides, on the customer side, which is retailers, and on the supplier side, which is manufacturers. And so we had two ways to go about it. One was we could have invested much more money in vertical integration. That means increase our manufacturing capabilities and capacities to cater to demand of the large retailers, or go forward and say we are going to be selling directly to consumers or directly to customers who are coming to the retailers and buying. I mean, we all knew by 2015, 2016 that online was a good thing. It was growing, and so we kind of took this conscious decision that we are going to start our own online label. I'm very wary of using the word brand, but so we said, we are also going to sell online, right? That was the concept. It wasn't like we had designed California Design Den to be some kind of big brand or anything of that at that point of time, right?
Right.
And so in 2016, we had launched some online products, and then 2017 is when we launched California Design Den, focused on what we really knew well, which is bed sheets, focused on qualities that traditionally sold very well in retail, and the price point it sold well. We partnered up with Amazon, and because Amazon had the biggest reach in US,
right,
and we launched California Design Den sheets. And since then we have grown year over year. Every year we have grown, and we have expanded some of our products as well, mostly in different price points on bed sheets and some bedding products as well. And we have also expanded to other markets, Canada, which is very similar to the US, and then some countries in the European Union, Japan. Yeah, so that's how the journey has been. Now our whole focus is on California Design Den, and ensuring that our products, our customers get the best products at the best value.
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Deepak. I mean, so a lot of you have shared specific questions and areas you would like to learn about. So we will do this session in the form of Q&A, going through each of those areas. While Deepak is speaking, you can send any further questions you have here on chat, and we can take that up with Deepak as we progress in this discussion. So Deepak, like, I mean, just doubling down on the previous question. So I mean, you mentioned about CDT's journey. So from that perspective, like, we will cover certain areas, like, for example, like, we'll start with consumer insight. So with respect to the global market, how does one read global consumer insights, like whether there is a need for a product or not, or let's say some of us have already launched product, right? So in that case, what to improve in an existing product? Like, I mean, you started with that, but
Sure.
maybe if you can expand on that particular thing, like, how you understand global consumer insights. Yeah.
Sure. So, I'll give an example of how we did it, and then I'll give some of my thoughts on how newer emerging brands should do, right? So in our case, because we were making our product for over a decade, right?
Right.
for retailers, right? For some big retailers, we kind of knew what product quality meant, right?
Right.
So by that, I mean, what kind of fabrics, what size sells, what color usually sells. Because if you see a certain product being ordered year after year after year, that means that sells more. If something is ordered just once a year and never repeat ordered, that means, it was just a fad or just a fashion, right? Now, keep in mind, um, online marketplaces like Amazon, you need to build a product history for you to rank, right?
Right.
So if you launch new product every month, I'm just using that as an example, that have no history, you will be on 5,000 page,
Right.
page number 5,000, and no one will look at you.
Right.
So this is actually a plus and a pro and a con. So there are many product industries where new designs are needed, but then if those new designs are just product variant, that's okay, but you need to have anchor products to have history.
Right.
So coming back to your question on consumer insight, so that was the first thing wherein we kind of knew what was selling. But when we started to sell our own product online, we started to get consumer reviews.
Right.
Some of them good, some of them very poor. And the initial reaction was, well, how can that be? We have been making this product for 10 years. What do you mean this is not good or this is bad or whatever?
Yeah.
So I think an early learning was to listen to the customer and to really assemble a separate team within your organization, which should be technically led by the leaders or the owners. So never delegate this to just QA guy. I'm just using that to get my point across, because this is the most important thing. To when you read those reviews, to start figuring out what can you further improve in your product. And there's always something to improve. Now, you will not get to 100%, no product does, but the constant improvement is something that is important. Now, how do you understand what customer is saying? In the old days, and I meant till last year, we would read every review, try to, summarize them, try to bucket them into different categories. But, now you guys have ChatGPT, which is superb, right?
Yeah.
So you copy paste tons of reviews that you have, your 1 star and your 5 star. You copy paste your close competitor who has very similar products and may have a lot of history, their reviews. And, you put the right prompts with ChatGPT on, analyzing customer reviews, insights, customer pain points. You have to ask the right question. And online, you can find a lot of these prompts. You just search for it. You'll get a lot of the prompts on how to analyze customer likes and dislikes. And from there, you can learn not only how to improve your product, you can also learn how to communicate your message, right? How should you be telling the story? How should you be communicating? What is more important for the customer? So that's, I think, that's what I think is about global consumer insights, as you asked. I mean, one thing to remember is keep your personal biases aside. As manufacturers or brand owners, we may think we know a customer who's sitting here in America or in UK or whatever, but don't do that. You really don't know. You don't know their lifestyle. You don't know their preferences.
Right.
You don't know when they get up in the morning, they drink coffee or tea. Just because you read it somewhere doesn't mean you know it. So go by the data, keep your personal bias aside. Don't say, oh, I really like this design. Well, you may like it, keep it in your house. Does your customer like it?
Right.
So that is something that one must really remember.
So you mentioned about, listening to your customers. So, like, I believe most of us basically do that, like, trying to do basic level of research. But where do brands go wrong in listening to consumers or reading the market, right? In the sense, the data is available, you have launched, but what are some obvious mistake basically brands make with respect to how they basically, interpret what the customers are saying?
Yeah, I think, the obvious mistakes, as I said, is, putting your personal bias in. So if you start putting what you like or what your team member likes, or you just don't listen to the data. You say, oh, aisa kaise ho sakta hai? It can't be, No, that's not true. If the data is telling you something, that's true. So I think really looking at this problem from a business point of view is very, very critical in this process. And as I said, now with tools like ChatGPT, it's very easy to analyze a lot of these reviews. I mean, you have to analyze a lot of it, not just 4 reviews. And then let's say you pick up 5 competitors and you analyze their, 5 stars and their 1-star reviews, and you get a certain set of answers. And every time you do it for each competitor, the set of answers are similar, then you have your answer, right? That's what customers say, right? It is not as hard. It is quite obvious. It's just more often than not, it is clouded by our own bias. So, I mean, we also fall into that category all the time. Yeah.
So, I mean, CDD is known for with large variety of products and coming up with products which absolutely customers love. So, I mean, for those who doesn't know, people who are buying bed sheets, I mean, in the sense you will see, people specifically mentioning California, design then. So that's the kind of brand presence CDD is having, right? So with respect to that, you have a great bunch of products, in different categories. So what is the R&D process to build a great, global consumer product? Because to come up with new products, constantly innovating there, satisfying your current customers, then only you will be able to create that, brand for brand name. So what should be the R&D process basically to create a global consumer product?
So, sure. So, I mean, my answer again is going to be very limited to our product category. So I'm hoping that your listeners can probably, put those answers in their own prospect.
Right.
Also keep in mind, we kind of had an advantage because we were making this product for over 10 years, right? For retailers, correct?
Right.
So we kind of knew that product very well. We also kind of understood a bit of the market, not the customer, but the market we understood, right? 2 different things. So in terms of coming up with new products, in our case, because we were making a bed sheet, so if you pick up a product category, you have customers who will want to pay less, who want to pay more, and there are some customers who want to pay much more, right? For that, you need to, of course, offer something more, right? In bed sheets case, it's the quality of the fabric that is the variant, right? It's the colors. It's of course, size is obvious, right? So for our listeners, let's imagine you are making shirts, right? So that's an easy example everyone can probably relate to, right? Shirts or t-shirts, right? So there are different sizes, different colors, right? But there are also materials, right? You can have a thinner fabric, you can have a thicker fabric. So you can have premium fabric, fabric or things that have some finish on it that customers like. So therefore, for us, keeping the same product, coming up with better, I don't want to use the word better quality because all of them have similar lifespan. Just, finer, more expensive fabric, and utilizing that to produce different qualities of fabric and different price point of bed sheets. That was the primary step we did, right? Then some of the products that we also launched were related to bed sheets. So people who are buying bed sheets, we researched that, okay, they also want to buy, a blanket or a quilt, and so therefore some of the products that we launched were related to the product, right? So if someone buys a bed sheet and she really likes our product, she will come back to our shop and say, okay, what else do they have, right? So that very basic, simple thinking. I know I mentioned data, but when you try to innovate, try to launch a product or try to expand your product line, sometimes keeping it simple really helps. So don't get lost in the data jungle. Sure, you need to probably there are a lot of tools available that will give you, how big the market size is, who are the top competitors. how long the competitors have been in their positions. You can also look at, are there new brands that have come in the last 6 months to 1 year and have got to the top 100, top 50? And if they
Right.
have, what have they done?
Right. Right.
And if there are many of them, that means there is space in the market, right? If
Interesting.
you see that, new products are unable to get to the top, that means there is something, the market is a little crowded, right? There are tools that give you all these scores as well, how crowded the market is and what have you. And I guess, my guess is all of us want to do a business that lasts for a longer time and that makes money. So we
Right.
also have to look at what are we good in producing, right? And if there is a demand for that with the customer at the price point the customer wants to pay, I think sometimes keeping it simple is going to help more rather than just trying to push yourself to let's do something new, right?
Right. Right.
I think if you try to push too much, let's do something new, you may design a pen that writes underwater, but no one needs it.
Right. Right.
So, my advice would be to really focus on what you can really make well or know well, and what you are sure customer is currently willing to pay for. Um,
So,
that's
so you
something to keep in mind.
So you mentioned about two aspects, one innovation and also looking at different tools and looking at data with respect to what are the current brands doing, what are the new entrants doing. Uh, so with respect to global market, how should one think about copying an existing market product versus introducing, let's say, a innovated product or a differentiated product, right? Because most of us basically evaluate the market, and then we see that there are certain players. No, you brought this interesting point of like, is it dominated by one or two players? Is it possible to basically make a space for yourself by having an innovative product? Or the other thing would be like, there are a lot of products which basically doing good, so just copy that. So how should one make a decision with respect to this uh, you know decision on this particular spectrum?
That's a good but a very tough question, because it's but I'll try my best here. So, a competitor benchmarking, product benchmarking, that is always a good idea, right? So
Right.
if you are, making something that already people are selling, right?
Right.
Um, then it is always a good idea to see who's the market leader,
Mhm.
and not just who's selling the most,
Mhm.
um, also who has the highest star ratings. Because
Right.
sometimes who are selling the most are the oldest on the platform.
Absolutely.
And they are good enough. They're not bad. If the product quality is bad, you will not be anywhere. It's a mat. So that moment you take shortcuts, the moment you try to, let me put it simply, the moment you try to cheat the customer and think you are too smart, your days are numbered. You will not survive in business. Maybe 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, luck of draw, right?
Mhm.
So it's very important that you remain true to the product and to the customer, right?
Mhm.
Um, so that's why listening to the customer and what their complaints are, and genuinely improving your product, or
Mhm.
clearly mentioning that this is part of the game, this is part of the product, right? That, hey, after 4 years, I mean, if people say this something happens to this product, and if you know that that is true with everyone who makes this product,
Mhm.
then you need to communicate that. If you are miscommunicating, like you can't say, oh, this product will last for 50 years, when you know it doesn't last for more than 2 years.
Right.
So
Right.
don't overpromise stuff, right? So coming back to what you were asking, so because to benchmark a product is important. So that
Mhm.
means you need to buy the product, or look at, if the product is made in India, you need to look at the product. Um, I don't know how you'll get hold of it, but there would be exporters that make the product for big retailers, right?
Mhm.
That's a great way to get the quality of the product. Because if something is being made for large retailers in US or in Canada for few years, that means that product really sells in that market, right? Because
Right.
large retailers will not buy it year after year, or a quality that doesn't sell. right?
Right.
So therefore that benchmarking becomes important. Now comes the next point about, will it fit in your price point, right? Because online means shipping costs, right? Large retailers, while their margin requirements are larger, they have very less shipping costs, right? People come to the stores. So that is the next stage. You need to cross the hurdle and figure out, how your product lie in it. Then in terms of innovating versus current product, so if you listen to the customer reviews, what their pain points are, what the big pain points are, you may want to improve on some of those features to see if you can offer that benefit, right? If some people are saying, look, I mean, if you're going to make iPhones and people complain, my iPhone cracks when it falls on the ground all the time, you can design a new phone that won't crack. And guess what? There will be people who are going to buy it, right? So you can come up with ideas that customers will value, correct? And then you improve on that product and you communicate that, right? So that usually helps in product innovation. But more often than not, just doing simple things better and better and better than others will make your business in the long term.
So
there is no shortcut. There is no shortcut here. As I said, I don't think anyone of us on this call know how to make an iPhone that when dropped will not crack. So no shortcuts.
So basically, just to emphasize on what you mentioned, like it's basically that iteration that, you have to invest for a long time, like, a long term, you have to constantly innovate, make modification to your product till the time it doesn't, reach that point where customer is like absolutely happy with your product. I mean, in the sense, still you have to do that, but we cannot assume that you just want launch product and it will be,
Yes. I think, as brand owners or sellers or, product owners, whatever word you want to call it, we all have to learn from, the corner store of grocery or, kirana store, right? That we all see, that has been there for 40 years, 50 years, right? How have they been doing their business? Right? So the question, so the big question here is, if you are getting in business, what are you getting in for? Right? So unless you really are going to make some kind of as I said, iPhone that doesn't crack and break, which people do, but that's 1 in a billion, right? But most of us will have to design product and a business philosophy and business culture and ethics and honesty to make a product and service the customer for a long term. And if you do that and you constantly continue to slowly improve your product, not large changes, not a change that suddenly if people want to pay $10 for your product and you design something that is now $60, I mean, only 2 people are going to buy it. That doesn't make sense. That's not commercial sense. Right. So the iteration and improvements, you have to keep in mind the price point. What is it going to mean for what the customer pays? You can't sell it for free. You can't sell it for loss. You also cannot, at least in most products, I will not say all products, in most products, I don't think you can design a product or a brand that mostly sells on marketplace, right? Which I guess most of us fall into, to think that you will sell it at a loss for 5 years and gain market share, and then someone will come and fund you. That also doesn't happen. I know we all love to read Economic Times and those big flash news, but if you want to really build a business, try to do it yourself and see what happens, right? Can you grow it for long? I think that's an important thing while you're building a product or a brand.
Interesting. I mean, that's a very good perspective, especially with respect to iteration. I mean, in the sense, you cannot iterate to a level that, the product completely changes from what you have planned it to be, like from a price point. So now the elephant in the room, basically, one thing which basically, a lot of us are interested and also trying to crack on a day-to-day basis, like which is basically the marketing side of things, right? So I mean, I believe a lot of us over here like are curious to know the marketing side of things in the global market, right? So in the initial years, or let's say first 1 or 2 years, like how should brand approach marketing, or like to put it specifically, like how should they advertise their products, or like what are the specific options and processes to basically execute in a way that you're testing out the market, but you're also not ending up on the wrong side of the wrong side of things, right? So how to approach this marketing piece when you are launching in
Sure.
national markets?
So if your product is, if you think your product can sell by a lot of influencers, Instagrammers, let's imagine you've designed a new lipstick or a makeup thing, or things that people will just buy because they see a nice ad about it, right? Then your marketing tactics are going to be very different, right? Because you can technically have a lower cost and higher price point, and you can spend a lot of money on marketing, and you can also sustain a business that is run by a website, right? But most products, but running a website is expensive. Driving traffic using Google is also expensive. Shipping those products to customers and taking returns is also expensive, and also cumbersome. And many of us in India, how will you do that when you are in US? You really need warehousing, customer support, etc., etc., etc. So that is where marketplaces like Amazon, right, become a great place, because a lot of the operational headaches are outsourced. They are still there, but they are outsourced, right? So you can send the product to their warehouses. They will take the orders. They will do the payment processing. They will do the shipping. They will take the returns, right? You have to care about your price and your customer support. However, one thing that we all forget is, how do you bring traffic, right? So with marketplaces like Amazon, they get customers who just don't have anything. They just go on Amazon to shop, right? So you don't have to worry about bringing traffic, right? So it is like, if you want to have a shop to sell clothes, right? T-shirts are old example. If you have a shop just behind your house where there are no other shops, now who's coming there to buy T-shirts? Few people, right? Like your website. But if you have your shop in the main street, NG Road, every city has Mahatma Gandhi Road, right? Mall Road, right? Where there are a lot of clothes shops. So people are coming there to shop, right? And because they're coming there to shop, they will have a chance to come to your store, look at your store, and come in and look at the products and buy, right? So now with this example, being on marketplace is advantageous, right? For most products.
Right.
So that's the first question. Now you are in that big street, right? And where customers are coming to shop. But now that big street also has lanes, gullies, right? And your shop is in the corner of some gully. So less people are going to come, right? That means you're on page number 50 on Amazon, right? How do you come in front, right? So somewhere you have to figure out how to get to page 1. Because if you're not on page 1, the chances of you doing well becomes very low. Right. Also keep this example in mind, right? These shops, right? These, in online, we talk about keywords, right? Nothing but a shop, right? So example, if you make T-shirts and there are all these shops, some shops are in the front of the gully, some shops are at the back, but you want your T-shirt to be displayed on the front window of the shop, right? So that's rank number 1, correct? Or maybe 3 ranks, right? That is your front window. So that is even better, right? So if you are showing it, a mannequin, a doll is wearing your dress, then people like it. Oh, this is nice. I'm going to buy it. So that means you are ranked on the top.
Right.
But if you're ranked, you're still on page 1, but you're ranked at the bottom. So you are in the shop, but somewhere at the back, someone has to scroll down, right?
Right.
So some of these examples, why I'm presenting it, it kind of cuts the clutter, while we all have to look at data to look at what keyword is important and where are you ranking. If you simply think it like this, it becomes easy for you to kind of understand, what to do. So now imagine you are making t-shirts for babies, newborn, right? And you want to go to a store that sells suits and adult, like for men, shirts for like shop like Manyavar, right?
Right.
You're not going to go there and say, hey, I make this baby clothes. Can you put it on your shelf? They're going to say, why? My customer is different, right? So that's your keyword, right? So you have to find relevant shops equal to relevant keywords, right? For your product.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Those, if you don't know your relevant keywords, means you don't know the relevant shops that will keep your product. Forget about being on the front window or back. First is you enter the shop, right? They will entertain you. If you go in the shop with your baby clothes, they will throw you out. They'll say, "Kyun mera samay kharab kar rahe ho?" Right?
Right.
If it's a sari shop, right, and you're going with ties, they'll say, "Why are you wasting my time? I don't sell that." Right? Why are you coming here? So keyword is nothing but that. You need to think about keywords like shops, right? So you have a list of keywords that are relevant or shops that will sell your product, right? Once you know them, right, you have to design your content. And there are many tools and online courses that you can take for SEO things. What you have to write those keywords in the right places for the search engine to know that this is your product. Otherwise, they don't know what the product is, right? And you do that. And then you are going to, come in that shop. You'll be on page 50, but you'll come in that shop. Right. Now your question, how do you sell? Like, how do you get on the top? So that has become tough. That has definitely become tough because, unlike 5-10 years back when there were less players, I mean, there were always players, but the market was still growing a lot. You were getting a lot of chance. You could spend some money on ads and probably show up on the top for a few days. And then, so it's going to be expensive. Let's put it that way, right? So therefore, you need to figure out which shopkeeper is going to has less products and probably will give you some chance, right? So your bids, right? And then if it is relevant and you advertise, right, whatever the cost is, if your photo is good, if your content is good, right, your price is right, that is also an important part, right? Again, if you sell a $200 t-shirts, 200 rupee t-shirts, and you go to a top shop which actually only sells, I don't know, whatever, polo and big brands, right? They're going to kick you out. They're saying, this is too cheap for me, right? Or vice versa, right? If you are making expensive product and you go to a cheap shop, they'll say, look, I'll keep it. Only one person will buy it in a day, So the price point that keyword has is also kind of important to see the shop. And then you advertise and see what happens, right? Because if your product is right, as I said, people will click, right? They will look at the product. Will they buy it then? Right? So if everything is right, they will buy it. Once more and more people buy it, then the shopkeeper is going to say, oh, this product is good. It is currently at the back, but when people come and see it, more people are buying it. So let me give it a chance. Let me put it in the front of the shelf, right? And see what happens. So when you are a new product, marketplaces like Amazon, they do give new products a chance to come on the front. Because for Amazon also, they want customers to find new products, right? They don't only want old brands and old products to be there. Then it becomes boring. So they will give new products a chance, right? So you will get a chance, right? And depending on if everything else is good, your product will start to sell. the shopkeeper will see, hey, this is how good this product is, and then put you somewhere on page 1 or page 2, and slowly you will work your way to improve your sales.
Right.
Everything in online is on conversion, right? The word conversion here. Conversion is nothing but how many people are buying a product compared to how many people touch it or see it, right? So the more you convert, the more importance the shopkeeper will give you, and your product will start going up. So that is something that that one needs to do. Now, so therefore, you have to spend money to get visibility. So and depending on what product you are in, it's hard for me to say, what it'll cost. I can tell you that generally speaking in marketplace, very, very few people have come up on the top by selling their house and spending on ads. So very, very few. So it is better that you go slow and steady, improving on keywords that matter, the right bids, slow and steady. Don't try to be in a rush. If you have the right mindset to be in a long play with the right product, because remember, you will have product problems. You will continue to improve your product, your listing, your photos, your communication. You may think you are the best in your world, but even then, you will have all those things. So it is important to keep that in mind and not blow up all your money in ads day one.
Right.
So it has to be slow and steady, see the data, improve on every front.
Right. So, I mean, must appreciate that, like, we all have, watched a lot of videos with respect to marketing, but the way you have explained it, I believe, like, the examples you gave, like, it makes makes it all the more clear. And I think many of the concepts are like clearer now. So yeah, I mean, really like the analogy you gave to basically explain. So, I mean, just a follow-up question. So, you mentioned about ranking on top, right? So, how important it is, like the organic ranking aspect, or like you mentioned that the journey of, like, how you can appear on top, right? But is it also something which basically can be influenced, or like is it something which basically is part of the process of, like, the Amazon ads or like any other marketplace ads which we are basically running?
Yeah. So, now, I mean, you have to spend on advertising. That's a must. So how much you have to spend, how long you have to spend, that again is very, very specific to a product, right? To think that you can run a business only organic. So organic is most critical. If you don't have organic rankings in the future, you cannot. It's very hard to sustain business. That means you have huge margins to spend on ads. If you have huge margins, more players know it, right? That अरे ये तो $2 में बनता है, ये $50 का बेचते हैं, right? So more people will come in the market, and they will say he's selling for $50, I will sell for 40, right? And in 6 months, your price will be down to 10. Right? So market will take care of itself, right? If anything, so in most cases, you will not have products that have huge margins. That is not possible in a free market like this, right? Unless you have such a unique product that only you know how to make it, or very, very few people know how to make it. But then the market for most of those products is also very small. Right? There is market, and India has a lot of handicraft, handmade things, specialized things that no one in the world can copy, right? And therefore you can price them higher than machine-made products. Of course, you should, and make more margin, more money. But not many people buy that product, right? Mostly because of price, or mostly unless that product, if it's handmade, unless it's very unique, people won't differentiate between a machine made and that. And if it's very unique, means some people like it, some people don't like it. right?
Got it.
Some people like flower design, some people hate flower designs. Right?
Mm.
So therefore advertising becomes important. What percent you advertise versus organic, again, that depends on how old you are on as a product, right? On a platform like Amazon. I would say initially your advertising cost will be high. It could be even as high as, you may be getting like 60-70% of your sales from advertising.
Mm.
I won't go into cost because that all depends, right?
Right. Right.
And in the long term, current data that we read, current data is kind of 60% organic, 65% organic, 35% ads, 40% ads for long-term play. But that is changing because marketplace also need more money and more players are coming in, so they are spending more money. So, uh, the cost of advertising is only going up.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with respect to, so one of the important aspect of building a global brand is like, having, good to have a perspective from you on this, like the online versus offline debate, right? Or how important it is to basically uh, focus on offline, and at what stage one should be focusing on offline. I mean, once you have established yourself in the online market, or let's say you should do it parallelly, what are your opinions on that?
So in a country like India, going
Mm.
offline is a great idea,
Mm.
right? Because customers are still buying a lot from the stores,
Mm.
from smaller stores. But then you have the problem of credit and credit collection, and storekeepers want 90-day credit. And so if you know that business of distributors, CNF agents, retailers, I think it's a great idea
Mm.
because it improves your distribution. In a country like US or developed countries here in the West, that is a very hard question to answer and
Mm.
a hard road to take, actually, not a difficult question. Because if you are already selling to retailers,
Mm.
you already know that it's not easy,
Mm. Mm.
right? As I told you in our journey, it's not that we were getting hard time from the retailers. We
Okay.
realized that with retailers, you have no bargaining power,
Mm.
right?
Right.
They
Right.
can walk to anyone else and negotiate $1 cheaper, and there goes your order,
Mm.
right?
Right. Right.
When you are selling directly to customers on a marketplace, and if you have 100 customers who buy from you every day,
Mm.
unless you completely screw up your product quality, okay, someday you will have 90. Even if you have some competition, there will be 80, then new 10 will come. You can
Mm.
keep working on it and your business will survive and you will continue to sell, right?
Mm.
No one can shut your business down unless your product becomes obsolete, right? Some new things come that people don't need your product, right? That's
Mm.
different. But many products, at least that traditionally are exported from India, they always have a market, right?
Mm.
They are
Right.
made of good quality, right?
Right.
If you compare to other countries, India has a good name as far as quality is concerned. That, oh, it's made in India, it has to be better quality,
Okay.
generally speaking. Yeah.
Okay.
For many of the products, especially textiles, handmaids, carpets. I mean, many products, right?
Right.
Even in the US or Canada, when you go to high-end stores, you will see more made in India. If you go to very cheap stores, you will see made in some other country. I won't take any names. So, right? So we all know that. So now that doesn't mean you can price very high for the same quality, right? So that's a constant battle we are taking. So on the offline world, um, that's a difficult one to answer because that all depends on the product. So if I talk about, let's say, shirts or t-shirts
Mm.
or bedding or very common products, right?
Mm.
Then to think that you will go offline, you must have drunk something to think like that. Means forget about it.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm. Mm.
Um, I think, not I think, you all know, you yourself are going less to the stores and buying more online,
Right.
right?
Right.
So why waste your time? Why waste your resource in something that you can hardly control? Now, again, there will be some products that, that the retailers just don't have. But what are those products? If you think you made some product or you have a product that people have not seen, let me tell you, there are companies which like Walmart,
Right.
where they have, I read online that the Walmart CEO, he used to come to India 30 years back buying products from India. He was a buyer.
Right.
So if you think that, oh, you have shown something to a buyer from US, you have not seen the world.
Right.
They have seen everything. They have seen much more than you can even imagine. Every part of the country, not just the country, around the globe.
Right. Right.
So it is very important for you to really think, is this that unique and new that the retailers have not seen it? If so, please go ahead and try to meet a retailer. If it's a common product, your answer is very simple. How will you sell offline? Why will they sell offline? And then
Right.
what happens to your margin? If you are doing well online, which is, let's say, on marketplaces, because we already discussed selling on your own website is hard and more expensive,
Right. Right.
right? But if you have a product that is selling on your website, is influencer driven, right? Is
Right.
very trendy, sure, then a retailer wants to carry it because it's in fashion.
Right.
And they also know after 6 months, no one is going to talk about it, right? So you have a business of 6 months till you have to produce something new, right? But if you are majority on a marketplace like Amazon, that means you already have to make sure your prices are sharp, correct?
Right.
Because if your margins are huge, that means more players are already coming in. It's a matter of few months before your margins will come down.
Yeah.
So what will retailer make for the same product?
Right.
How will they make their money? Right?
Right.
So therefore, I would say that it will be beneficial for most people to focus online.
Got it. Got it.
Beneficial. I'm not saying it can't be done,
Got
but
it.
the simple answer is that.
Got it. We have we have just 5 minutes more, so just want to cover on the supply chain aspect. So, what are the cost-effective ways to basically deliver products to, let's say, Amazon US or US in specific, in a very cost-effective manner? Are there areas where basically we should be concerned of which with respect to the supply chain cost?
Yes, that's a very good question, Rakesh. And I think that is apart from figuring out, if the customer will pay for your product, right? That price point, and what will you make out of it?
Right.
I think the third line should be, what will it cost you to take the product to the country in the quantity that you think you're going to sell? Because if the quantity you take is too much, then you get in trouble with the storage and the storage fee and the storage cost, which is very, very high. I would say 9 out of 10 brands that fail due to supply chain. The cost, if not managed correctly, will ruin you. Okay. And so therefore, that is the hardest part of this game. I don't have a simple answer for it, but one must really think that hard. That means apart from ads, you will have to budget extra expense in taking those goods or storing those goods in the country till your business stabilizes, right? To a volume that you can ship. Right. Very few products like jewelry and all you can airlift, right? Which have high value, smaller weight. Many products, at least that are made in India, have more volume to it or weight
Right.
to it, that has to go by ocean,
Ocean, yeah.
right?
Mm.
Therefore, the time taken and what have you. Also, to keep in mind, you have to invest something in inventory. You can't take such a less quantity that when your product gets a chance to start selling, you get out of stock.
Right.
That is the other reason why brands would fail, is they don't have enough. So this is a very tough question, Rakesh. Not a simple answer for it. Therefore, as I said, like advertising, you'll have to budget and risk some money into inventory, being in stock but not being out of stock, being in stock but not being excess stock.
Right.
All that you'll have to figure out, because if you think you can take too much goods and then if it doesn't sell, you can just sell it off, it's not that easy either. You will see, you can go on page 4 or 5 for many products and you will see products that are selling for way less quantity, way
Mm.
less price,
Right.
but they're
Right.
still not selling
Right.
because they are in that fifth gully at the end. So
Right.
no one is coming there to discover them.
Right. Right.
you know so so that is something that all owners should really work on scenarios
Mm.
before diving into this.
Got it. So, I mean, your scale is high, but how do you, like, maybe if you can just quickly shed some light on how do you manage supply chain today? Like, I mean, in the sense, I believe it has got optimized over a long period of time, and the scale is very different. Uh, but
So,
yeah,
yeah, I know I answered more about logistics when I answered the previous one. In terms of supply chain means producing your product, so you have the product coming in, right?
right.
You must have, I will say, control on supply chain for the quality first.
Mm.
So if you own your own factory, it becomes easier. Many of you won't own a factory,
Mm.
but either you should have ensured that you have multiple suppliers that
Mm.
can produce the same quality, or you have a great relationship with a supplier who hopefully won't sell immediately online as well, that can continue to produce the quality you need.
Right.
Um, don't try to save money on quality or on packaging
Right.
or on how um, nice the packaging looks. I'm not saying spend tons of money on it, but there are cheaper ways, but to pack a product nicely. So
Right.
when a customer buys it, gets online, they feel this is a good product.
Mm.
Many customers, if it's packed very poorly, or it's very difficult to tear open, or when
Yeah.
they open, all the foam is falling all over their floor, on their dress, they'll get frustrated, they'll return your product.
Right.
So very important to think that through. Um, I know this is not a packaging question. Um, so having a control on supply chain, ensuring you have multiple resource, if one resource is closed or doesn't want to supply to you or whatever,
Right.
ensuring that each of those resource is able to maintain your quality,
Right.
right, becomes important. And then, of course, we discussed about investing to take your quantity, uh, you know, in
Right.
a way that you can have the right quantity and price to take it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, we had a few more questions, but I think we'll like short of time. Maybe we will send those questions separately to Deepak, and we can get his insights on those. Like a couple of questions around accounting and building a team, right? So those are the areas where we couldn't. I mean, we couldn't like basically get his thoughts on. But yeah, we have come to the end of this session. Thank you very much, Deepak, for sharing your knowledge and helping the ecosystem. I mean, you have been you have done it, and then I mean, it's a story like which is inspiring to all of us. So we learned a ton, and it will go a long way in helping more brands and entrepreneurs succeed globally. I mean, so we really appreciate you coming and taking out the time to share your knowledge and your learnings with us all.
Thank you, Rakesh. It was a pleasure. Just want to make sure that all the new entrepreneurs, they think long term and don't try to get rich too soon. I guess if you just remember that, you'll do well.
Yeah. Lastly, for all the brands and entrepreneurs over here, like, over the next few weeks, we have more sessions with founder at Vadam as well as the leadership team at, Amazon Global Selling. I mean, they will be having a different perspective to share with you all, which I believe will be useful for all of us. You should get the invite for these other sessions on email. Thank you again, everyone, for joining the session. Goodbye and have a nice evening. And thanks, Deepak.